Hello.
Hi, good afternoon,
Always,
ladies and gentlemen, and welcome
always.
to another week of cocktails and crimes. I'm
I
here
always
with
love
my
that intro, though, don't you?
that intro is amazing. And you know who made my intro? This lady right here, this wonderful, wonderful co-host of mine, and she does all my graphics. She does everything for me. She's kind of like my babysitter.
I'm like, Is your mic set up right? Wait, I
Yeah,
can't hear
like
you."
she has to do
Yeah,
everything for me, I swear.
it's
So
okay though.
this week we are moving on to another case, and I will tell you, this case deserved a strong, strong cocktail. Okay. So this week we're going to be talking about Christian Andreacchio. And I'm not even going to lie, I knew I had to come up with something like a really strong and potent drink for this one. So this week's cocktail for you to sit back and sip is going to be a blackberry bourbon tea. Now, I love bourbon.
Mm,
Obviously, it's quite the theme
me
here.
too.
Um, but this is a big recipe, so you don't make it small. It's actually like a big recipe. So it's going to be 3 cups of fresh blueberries or blackberries, whatever you choose. I did blackberries. 3/4 cups of sugar, 2 tablespoons of fresh mint, 1.5 quarts of ice cold water, and 6 good quality black tea bags. You have to have like top quality because you want the bitter ice, and then your bourbon. You're gonna make your blackberries in a bowl with your sugar and your mint, and you're gonna muddle them or mash them. Some people mash them. And then while they're sitting, you're gonna bring your water to a bowl. Add your tea bags, let them steep for about 3 to 5 minutes. Remove the bags, pour the tea over the mixture, let it sit at room temperature for 1 hour. Let all those flavors come together. Pour the mixture through a strainer into a pitcher. Press on the solids you want to get all that flavor out. Cover and refrigerate until cold for at least 2 hours. I left mine sitting like overnight.
Mm,
And actually, you can put it in an ice bath to cool it quicker. And then you serve it over ice in whatever glass you choose. This case, I was going to do just like
mm.
a regular Tom Collins glass. This case required breaking out the tumbler.
Yeah, for sure.
And then when you pour your tea mixture over, you're going to do a big floater of bourbon on top. So I did 3 shots of bourbon on this one because it's a big cup, which means we're going to sip really slow.
Yeah, real
And I
slow.
add some mint, stir it together, and sit back and sip while you sit back and listen, because this case, let me tell you, we've covered the cocktail, but let's get into the crime.
Yep.
I don't even have words for this one. And let me preface this by saying, trigger warning, we're not nice over here. We're not going to
Mm,
be nice. This is a case that happened really close to home. And not only that, it was someone on a young kid. There's talk of unaliving. There's different situations, drug use. So any of those things that trigger you, I'm probably not the person that you want to listen to. I'm foul mouthed, and this is not going to be any different. And this case pissed me off. So when I got told about it, and then I looked into it, and I started researching, I knew that this was the one that I wanted to talk about. Especially after I've sat and listened to so many of Christian's mom's interviews, and
yeah, yeah.
my heart for this woman, this family, just
Mhm.
absolutely breaks into, I can't
It's
even fathom at all.
almost as if they're like being told, "Hush, just it's nothing, just
Just go
hush."
away.
Yeah, but
Um,
literally, this is your child's life. I mean,
exactly. And you know what?
just
I will say this. I have the utmost respect for the Andreacchios. Ray
mhm,
has pushed so hard through all of this
mhm,
and has just, she's not stopped fighting. And that shows a mother's love. It shows what kind of family he
yeah,
came from. And it shows the quality of people. And then like to hear all the things that have been said about Christian from his friends and his family, people that just met him one time. So
Never underestimate the love of a mother. That's,
absolutely not. I'm a mom, you're a mom, and
mhm.
what these people have gone through, I can't even imagine. And I can see like we've always said, when we're talking about Summer's case, I'd burn the world down.
Right?
And Ray has
Mhm.
gone to every extreme, and the amount of respect that I give to this woman is just insane.
Same here. What's powerful is that she's got a lot of really powerful and expert type people backing her on this.
Yes,
So, I mean, I think if if the law enforcement agencies there are not seeing, I think the more that she goes forward with this, the more pressure is being put on everyone involved, including
absolutely.
those that know what happened. And my suggestion would be keep pushing because someone's going to crack.
Oh, absolutely.
And law enforcement needs to get it together because once that crack happens and everything spills
Oh,
out,
this is
they're
yeah.
going to look really, really bad.
Oh, there are
So,
no words. And
yeah.
like I wanted to preface even getting into it by just like saying all of that because this is going to be a multi-part series. I'm not gonna ever take a case and look at it and try to sum it into one show if there's just so much detail. So a lot of these cases that we do look into are multi-part for a reason. And this one, I can't say if it's gonna be three. I don't this one could end up being, I'm not even gonna lie, this could be like a 10 part. We could probably talk about it for the next year. Um, and I'm just shocked. The more that I read, the more pissed off I get, and then the more shocked I get. So if you're looking for shock value, you've come to the right place. Not in a
Mhm.
good way, but you have. So we're gonna take it all the way back. This happens in 2014. So let's set the scene. Okay, small town in Mississippi, Meridian, Mississippi, in Lauderdale County. Most of you know I sound like cornbread, so obviously I'm from the South. I am actually from Mississippi. This happened about an hour and a half from where I live. Um, so taking it all the way back, small town, small police department, you can kind of pick up where this is probably going to go. February 26, 2014, cold day in Mississippi. And that's the day that would change the life of Ray and Todd Andreacchio and their family for the rest of their lives. Their son, Christian Shane Andreacchio, would be found dead, supposedly by suicide. Um, when his dead body is found in a Mississippi apartment, um, it's dismissed as a suicide by the police after a very short investigation. However, his parents to this day believe that it was a planned murder. Um, I know that this case has had all the twists and turns. So on this first part, let's just talk about um, the day of and that atrocious thing that's a girlfriend. Um, I
Yeah.
can't even stand her. I don't even want to say her fucking name. And
Yeah.
I want to say that going into this, I always try to keep an open mind when we do these. I tried to keep an open mind with this one, and it did not take me long to change my mind and be like, yeah, just the
No, that
mishandling.
mhm.
So, getting into the facts, Christian Shane Andreacchio was born on November 4th, 1992. He is the second child out of four of Ray and Todd. Ray and Todd both grew up in Meridian, um, Mississippi. There aren't
Let me
enough
get a
words
picture.
to a Christian. He
Mhm.
was just precious. Like he was just
Isn't he?
precious.
Yep.
And to hear everyone say and listen to the interviews, there aren't enough words to even like describe the type of man that Christian actually was. He was, in the words of friends, family, he was family oriented, he was hardworking, he was loyal, he was very ambitious, which truly shined through in his career. Christian worked on a towboat for Magnolia Marine in the Mississippi River. He knew from an early age that he wanted to work offshore, like on a rig or on a boat. And then when he turned 18, he started applying. He got his
Mhm.
credentials and he landed a job with Magnolia Marine. he worked his way up through all the positions, and in 3 short years, which I'm gonna speak from experience, it's pretty insane. He was on track to become the youngest towboat captain on the
Captain, yeah.
Mississippi River in 3
Mm.
years. If that doesn't show you dedication and drive and the type of person and the ambition
Mhm.
and goals that
And
this kid
you have
had.
you have some inside knowledge on that industry in itself.
I
I mean,
do.
you
I am
do.
a
So
so I am a tugboat wife, and my
mhm.
husband, has been out there for 15 years. He made his 15 in March, and so looking into this, when I found out the company that he worked for, I have friends that work for Magnolia Marine, and I actually called them and asked them a couple of questions to clarify and double check because some of the things that I heard and read didn't add up, especially about the night that he was picked up when we get into that. Um, so I definitely, you know, I jumped into looking and being like, something
Mm.
doesn't sound right.
Yeah,
So,
no, for sure.
but just talking about his drive and everything, the fact that he was 18 years old, and I'm telling you now, it is very rare that an 18-year-old goes to work out there and stays. Those guys come and go. So
It's hard
Christian
work.
being 18, he lands this job. He's making really good money, and he's working his way through all the positions on this boat. And in 3 years, he's looking at a captain spot. Like he's going to be the youngest captain on the river. That's fucking amazing.
Amazing. Amazing. Drive,
So,
yeah.
he has all these, and I know we're like kind of pounding on that, but I want to make that clear. So going into this, you understand why so much of this doesn't make sense. Um, so Christian is dating this girl, you know, you love will do these crazy shit, but
Yeah. Mm.
um Christian worked on these 30-day hitches on the boat. So he leaves, um, goes from Meridian, Mississippi to Vicksburg, Mississippi, where he parks his Jeep in the lot in Vicksburg and gets on the boat. And then while he's on this 30-day hitch, or supposed to be on the boat, Christian ends up dead in his apartment
Yeah.
in Meridian. Um, so Christian began dating 17-year-old Whitley Goodman. She's wild, bad reputation, doesn't really seem like a good match for
Mm, there she
Christian.
is right there, yeah.
His
Um,
parents are concerned about the compatibility. Um,
well, the age itself and
yeah,
then, there she is. Um
Shitley.
just
I
her
can't
story
even.
in itself, they meet and then, "Oh, no, my mom kicked me out, I have nowhere to go," and, I think that was kind of an MO for her because, as we'll get into later, she made some similar references to another gentleman that she was spending time with while supposedly with Christian. So I
Yes,
think that was just her manipulative way to get men
absolutely.
to do what she wanted. So
And so, according to Ray Andreacchio, she described, Whitley described a very chaotic childhood. And that's kind of one of the things like Christian, I think, wanted to save her. He wanted
mm,
to come in and take care of her. And then after like this first month, okay, so the new wore off really quickly from what I gather. And
yeah, he
within
got
this yeah, this first month, things just started to go downhill. Um, and Ray said that she started becoming more and more concerned about the relationship.
well, didn't she so we need to back up a little bit. Mom kicked her out, she had nowhere to go, so she moves in with
Yeah.
Ray
So now that
and
they're together, and then this so the first month,
basically
it's kind of like the
but
needs
basically
wearing
just
off.
moved in with Christian's parents.
Yeah, and now remember Christian and Whitley met through a mutual friend, right? And Whitley being a few years younger, they were kind of obsessed with each other. You know that young love. But
Mhm.
they were super toxic, which is described
Yeah.
by multiple people. But Christian's best friend Taylor said that he had known Whitley's family before he ever met Whitley. He never saw her with a family. They let her run wild. But even a teacher who describes Christian so fondly actually remembers Whitley. And remember, now his teacher speaks super highly of Christian, right? Doesn't really speak so fondly of Whitley.
Mm,
She said
yeah.
she was always in trouble. She had to have an ankle monitor. She had to wear it due to truancy issues. And the teacher even goes on to state that once during state testing, Whitley's monitor went off and they had to have her mom come down to change it or charge it.
Mm,
And at first, the Andreacchios did think that Whitley was just sweet and she was mild. So at one point, she moves into their home. Christian tells his parents Whitley has nowhere to go. She told him that her mom got remarried. They had kids. They told her they hadn't have room for her anymore. And of course, the Andreacchios felt for her. So, and they're obviously in everything that I've learned about these people, they're clearly wonderful people. So
mm,
they allow her to come live with them in their home. Now, their home. And so Christian and Whitley lived in the basement. It's like a finished, it was like an apartment down there, like a man
right.
cave
Yeah.
apartment.
He had his own
Um,
entrance out to the
Yeah,
lake and
like he
whatnot.
could go
Yeah.
out to the lake. So they had privacy, they had plenty of space, and she still manages to wear out her welcome with these people who openly took her in with open arms and said, "Yes, you can live here." You know, they have no obligation to help this child because she is a child. And
Mm-hmm.
then Ray
Basically.
starts hearing stories around town, and seeing things for herself that made her question Whitley's character, her mental stability, her intentions with Christian. She starts noticing that Whitley is always the victim in her stories and always has excuses. Like she walks around with a bag of excuses and just throws them out there.
Oh
And
yeah.
then she starts seeing tweets that Whitley has like posted online publicly, um, like one in, for instance, was like, just woke up. What should I do first? Meth or bath salts? And like tons of other drug references all over social media. I mean, just all over them. So, I mean, of course, Whitley's like, that was a joke. It was just kidding. First off, you're 17. Why are you posting about doing meth, anyways? Or
Well,
any
clearly
other?
she has
You
no
need to take
proper
your ass to
guidance. Yeah.
school. Like, that's what you need to be doing.
Mm,
Um, but Ray and Christian actually had a tradition of going to lunch at O'Charlie's. Now, remember, in all of this, Whitley is still living in the Andreacchios. So Ray and
mhm.
Christian have this tradition. They would always go to have lunch at O'Charlie's before he left out on one of his hitches.
Right.
Um, so they went once, and Ray kind of took the chance to talk to him about Whitley and their relationship and expressed that she really didn't trust her. Christian kind of brushed it off, you know, Mom, this isn't serious. We're just having fun. It's not like we're getting married. But Ray noticed that things started were missing around the house, and Whitley was just blatantly rude to people, like wait staff at restaurants for no reason. She
Well, I
started doing
know
Yeah, she just apparently was a vile human being.
well, I know that, he was particularly close to one of his sister, and there was a lot of strife between Whitley and his
Oh,
sister,
yes.
whom he was
She
very
started
close
just
to.
being extremely manipulative. And
Mhm,
so Ray describes the relationship with Alexa as like Christian was kind of like the second dad. You know, she wanted to be right
mhm,
wherever Christian was. They were best of friends, so to speak, you know?
mhm.
Um, and so I believe there was a lot of jealousy between the fact that he was so close to his family in general, but being so close to Ray and being
Right.
so close to Alexa. I think that was a lot of Whitley's problem as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, if he's close to his family, how is she gonna manipulate him,
Exactly.
you
And
know?
so, like, but then she started doing things like she would call Christian to tell him that Alexa's out smoking and riding around with people that she shouldn't, or, you know, and so Christian, being the protective big brother that he is, you know, would call his mom and tell her, you know, you need to get Alexa. And then mom would be like, well, she's here at the house. So there's just all these red flags. Well, then Whitley starts going into Alexa's room and Ray and Todd's room without their permission. Um, and so she goes in one time, she goes in the master bedroom and she takes a picture of Christian and his ex girlfriend of 5 years, Avery, out of a frame. Now, they were together for 5 years. There's going to be pictures, there's going to be all these things. And of course, Ray didn't go through the house and like scrub Avery from
Yeah,
existence. The
no,
family
no.
still loves Avery. Avery still loves the family. Avery's family loves the Andreacchios. They loved Christian.
Yeah, I
They
mean,
were
they
together
were,
for
like,
5 years. I
high
mean,
school sweethearts or something, yeah.
yeah, like they were together for
Mhm.
5 years. So of course Ray's not going to just like delete this woman from
And
existence in their
nevertheless,
home.
it's not something that you necessarily think about. How
Exactly.
many pictures you have in your wall that you don't even think about anymore, you know?
Exactly.
It's not like it was
And
a purposeful thing, you know?
yeah, like but Ray didn't go through the house. Oh, they broke up. Let me remove all these pictures. Like, she didn't do that. So one
Mm-mm.
time, um, apparently Avery or Ray and Todd and Alexa and all are all gone. So there's this picture of Avery and Christian in Ray and Todd's room. Now Ray didn't notice this picture missing or anything out of the ordinary until Whitley brings it back in her room and the faces are stabbed out of this picture. And said that Ray said that Whitley came in and put the picture in front of her and said, "That's what I think of that." Like, just,
That's horrible.
I mean, but then the final straw comes. So remember, Whitley's posting up, "What should I do, meth or bath salts?" Like all these drug references, and then the final straw comes with the Andreacchios, and they're like, "She's got to go." So Whitley gave Alexa a Xanax. Alexa's
Oh,
never had
God.
it, and so she's out knocked cold, right? They're done being nice to her. They're done letting her live in their home. This girl has just towed the lines on everything that you could possibly do to people that have allowed you to live in their home for free, mind you. Um, and so Ray even says that she, felt that Whitley didn't like her. Alexa was jealous of the relationship. So she poked at it on purpose.
I think
And she
so.
was
Mhm.
trying to alienate Christian from his family.
Mhm.
So they kick her out, and that obviously upsets Christian, who decided that if Whitley can't stay, neither was he. So around the same time, Christian's older brother Josh is going through a divorce. He has an apartment in Meridian with a spare room. So Christian and Whitley move into the room, and then Josh actually gets to see Whitley in action.
Mm.
Now Josh says that she's a high school dropout, she's a partier, but he said he didn't pay much attention to their relationship. Um,
Oh, we got a
but
comment here. Hello.
I love him. Um, but he says that they never discussed Whitley actually moving in. More like she could stay here, here and there, but like there was no discussion of her actually like moving in full time. But she
Right.
did. But she did.
Mm,
So
right.
Josh ends up becoming like her babysitter while Christian's on the boat. Now, Josh says I didn't really talk to her, just kind of kept watch. It's his younger brother, of course,
Yeah.
and she's in his house. So,
Well,
yeah.
yeah.
Um Now, while Christian's off at work, Whitley is out and about spending his money, driving his car, living in his apartment. She's not working, she's not going to school, and she's not medicated. All of which she's supposed
Medicated.
to be doing.
Medicated
Yeah. So
in
I'm
what
not sure
way?
the medications that she's supposed to be on, but I have a
Mm.
pretty sneaky
Well, it
feeling it's for
makes you
some
wonder. I mean, with
some
the Xanax
issues.
thing, maybe that she was on something like that. Would explain for, all the partying in the wild, just, chaos. Somebody that's
Exactly.
maybe untreated mental issue can be all over the place. So
Or she's just a horrible human being.
that too.
That too. I
Could be a
mean,
little bit of both.
um
So
Now, remember, so Christian's at work and she's just out fucking partying and living her best life. Of course, on Christian's dime, you know. And when neither Christian nor Josh were there, because Josh also works on a boat. Now they don't have the same schedule, but Josh works on a boat as
another
well,
comment.
or
Mm,
meth. You seem to see
medications,
a
meth.
reoccurrence in
Yeah,
these things.
maybe. Yeah.
Um, so while they're gone, the apartment is now like the fucking party pad.
Well, yeah,
She's
and isn't it
17
brother
years
Josh
old and
works
she's
on the
running
boat too,
people.
right? Josh works on the boats too, right? So
Yes.
so I remember reading or hearing that they have interchanging type of schedules. So one would be gone, then the other would be gone. Sometimes somebody was there with her, sometimes nobody was there with her, and
Yep, and the times
um
that she was by herself, she's just
mm,
running around, living it up, and of course, it's all at Christian's expense.
his
um,
brother as well. I mean, they're paying the rent, they're paying utility bills,
exactly.
and she's just doing whatever, you know.
Yeah, just running around. So then but now when Christian's home, okay, so Christian is a super outgoing person, a lot of friends, everybody knows him. Christian and Avery actually split up because their lives were going in separate directions, you know. He's only home, 15 days. He wants to go and go and go, and Avery's in school, and it just those
But
two
was she
things weren't
actually?
coinciding.
Oh yeah.
And so Whitley comes along, and she's a partier, and they meet. But then all of a sudden, when Christian's home and they're, together, they don't go out at all. They literally stay home at the apartment doing nothing but playing Xbox. Now, Christian is an outgoing person, a lot of friends, right? So,
And he's been
in
gone and he's young.
30
So
days on
yeah.
a boat.
But my suspicion with that is that she just didn't want to get caught up. Somebody that'd seen her out partying all the 30
Exactly.
days he was gone. They're like, wait, you have a boyfriend? What do you mean? You know, who's this guy?
Oh, who's this
So she didn't
guy?
want to get caught up in whatever she was doing, you know.
Exactly. So once Christian gets fed up with a bunch of different things going on, and he asks Josh to go and buy a home drug test. And he tells Josh if she fails to kick her out. Okay. So
Mm.
Josh goes, gets the drug test, tells Whitley the consequences if she fails it. Um, and she refused to take it at first and says she already knew that she was going to fail. She was going to fail for weed or
But
marijuana.
benzos as well. She admitted to that before the
We'll
test.
see. No, she didn't admit to that before. So she says, I'm going to fail for weed and I'm not going to take it. So Josh tells Christian, and Christian's like, well, tell her to take it anyways to prove that she's only going to fail for weed. She agrees and then fails it um for benzos. So Josh, doing what Christian said, follows his directive. He kicks her out. He put all of her things in black plastic trash bags, but it said that Whitley had zero reaction, like no reaction to being kicked
And a lot
out.
of that was what I'd read and heard, you know, I think it was even the brother that was talking about it on another show that whatever she did, she'd work her magic and
Yeah,
apologize, and then he'd let her come back home. So this was an ongoing thing. He'd get rid of her,
yeah,
kick her out, and then she'd come back, or they'd break up and then get back together. So
yep. She would
that's
manipulate and
probably
play
why,
her
yeah.
cards and always get her way, and then she would come back. Um,
And I think that's why she didn't really have any reaction because she
she
thought,
didn't.
oh, I'm just gonna be back. I'll be back, you know.
No
Um,
reaction whatsoever. Because, like
mhm.
you said, she knew she didn't have anything to worry about. So she, of course, eventually moves back in after talking with Christian and promising she would change.
Right.
So now it's said that Christian obviously has a soft spot for her. Um, and he has a blind spot as well. So she's living off of his money. And I mean, he bought her clothes, makeup,
Bought
a
her a
car.
car, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah. Fucking anything that she wanted. He bought her, she's just over here 17 years old riding around and she's got boat money. Um,
Mm,
Now, and it should be said here that even Whitley's closest friends, people that do know her, do not have a good description of her either. They have
mm,
called her
yeah.
manipulative, sneaky, a cheater, a
Mhm.
liar.
Yep.
I mean, the list of things they've called this girl, and they're her friends, they know her, is insane.
Right.
Um, so with that being said, now remember the manipulation that goes with this. Due to Christian's job, he has a set life insurance policy. And I'm going to say up front, that's really not unusual for any guy at any age if they work out there on the boats. Because you do know shit can happen out there. There, especially during like high river with my husband. I mean, I worry. I don't know if he's coming home. Shit happens. If you just go and like look up things that can happen out there, you won't sleep for weeks.
Oh, I bet.
So
Yeah,
he has a
no.
life insurance policy which is normal. Now, Ray and Avery are the beneficiaries on this life insurance policy.
And Avery,
So
just to backtrack for viewers, that she's the 5-year girlfriend. Probably just never thought to take her off. She was the girlfriend, high school sweethearts.
I
It's
think
not
that
like
he
there's a
always knew that he would get back with Avery.
maybe so. It's not.
Because I think that he knew her, she would graduate from
Mhm,
school and no, it's
yeah,
not. High River is not another day.
mm,
But I think that he always, suspected or knew that he would get back with Avery. And I think that's why he didn't really care to take it off. Because
maybe
in one thing that
so.
I
Maybe
listened to
so.
or read, he he had told his mom, I'm gonna live here till I'm 27, which would give time for Avery to graduate from college and basically they could get married and settle down. Um, However, that of course will never happen now. Um, but after an accident takes place at work, Whitley finally expresses that she wants to be on the life insurance policy as his beneficiary because she's worried what would happen to her and the baby if an accident were to
Maybe.
occur.
Yeah.
So she had started recently beginning to express that she thought that she was pregnant. By the way, she wasn't. It actually appeared from some text messages that she told him she thought she was, and then she came back later a couple of days and said she
Mhm.
wasn't. But then she said, "What if I was? Who would take care of me and the baby? Because my mother wouldn't." So I
Right.
think that she probably was preemptively planning to get pregnant anyways. But then she was like,
Possibly.
life insurance.
Right. I think no matter what, all of this had to do with money. Everything
This was
Whitley
all
does or
money.
did, anything she
It was
does
all
is
money.
regarding
It was
money.
every single bit of it was all
Drugs
money.
and money, and how can I get more and move forward,
Exactly.
living off of somebody else, or.
Well, and when Christian started asking around at work about taking Avery off as his beneficiary and replacing her with Whitley, he talked to his dad and then he talked to a lady that he worked with about it.
Mhm.
Who they referred to, her name is Miss Cheryl, but
Boat
they referred to
mama,
her as Boat
boat
Mama.
mama, yeah.
And Miss Cheryl was adamant that he should not do anything until it's even confirmed that Willie's pregnant. Well, obviously she says, I'm not pregnant. Yay. So, and even this lady, Boat Mama, refers to Whitley as nothing but money hungry.
Mhm.
So it's all revolving around the almighty dollar, as you can see from just this little bit. Um, Now Ray says that she doesn't know if there was ever a pregnancy or if it was just another lie. Um,
Most likely just a
but
lie or
clearly Whitley wasn't fucking
manipulation,
pregnant.
yeah. Right.
Um, so Ray, Todd, and Boat Mama all assume or believe that Whitley assumed the insurance policy was changed. And Ray and Avery actually they remained the beneficiaries on life insurance.
Mhm.
Christian's brother Josh remembers that Christian and Whitley were on the outs at the time. And Josh had encouraged him to break up with her for good. The drug test indicated that, during Christian's most recent hitch, um, that was enough for him to kind of encourage Christian to follow this plan that Christian had told him about leaving Meridian and moving to Jackson without Whitley. Like he was just going to up and leave.
Mhm. They were
So,
talking about, like, leaving the furniture behind and just getting
yeah,
out,
just
and I don't blame
dipping
them.
out, just being done.
Be done with it,
So,
yeah.
on February 22nd of 2014, Christian is scheduled to leave for another trip. Um, and the night before, a fight takes place between Christian and Whitley. And apparently, Whitley had gone to a party and Christian didn't trust what she had done. So the couple's not on speaking terms when he leaves for his hitch. And when he left, he took a lockbox in his Jeep that contained a gun and $7,000. Now he arrives at his destination, parks his car in a secured parking lot in Vicksburg, Mississippi, and gets on the boat. Now, Josh is already on another boat for his own hitch. He went out on the 7th. So now Whitley's been at home alone. Okay, she's unsupervised completely. And Christian is overly concerned about what she's doing when she's left to her own devices. So he's tracking her phone, probably on Live 360. They both do. But he's texting Josh about how awful his relationship is and he's ready for it to be over. So Christian calls Whitley over and over, 5 times between 5 p.m. and 1 a.m. on the 25th and the 26th. And he called her one more time at 7:15 in the morning. She ignores his calls, ignores all his text messages. So he kept calling their mutual friend Dylan Swearingen and try to get through to Whitley. Now Dylan has been in constant contact with Christian as well, and I don't know why he's been in constant contact with Boat
I
Mama.
heard that he had called him and told him Whitley was driving his car. Like
Oh
she
yeah,
picked up the car from the I guess a mechanic shop, and she was driving around town in his
uh huh.
car with another guy.
Another yes.
So
So
Dylan's
Christian's
feeding
phone,
him some information,
yes,
fanning the fire, the flame, because he's already,
absolutely. So Christian's phone's going off nonstop, and like you said, um, Dylan is saying, Whitley's driving around. Uh, I know Grant can't stand it. If I keep my phone everywhere with me when I go. Like, I don't care if I'm walking out to my car and right back in the house. My phone is in the palm of my hand the entire time because if I miss a call, it's like he's just like, you don't love me anymore. So I
I'm
get
over the
the
top. Like
not
I answer
answering the
everybody.
phone when they're
Yeah,
gone. It just drives them
I can
batshit
imagine.
insane. Um,
Yeah.
so Christian's obviously calling her, but then Dylan's saying, "Hey, she's driving around in your BMW. She's got another man in the car. So Christian, you need to handle this right now." Now, remember, he is on a towboat. He is in the river. You can't just up and like it's not like you work at a
Right.
bank. You can't just get in
I
your
mean,
car and
and leave.
drive home and be like, "Get the hell out!" Like this takes planning. Dramatic. He's look,
Right.
the comments,
She
"She doesn't
does
love
love
me." He's
you.
so
She does love
dramatic.
you. Hush your mouth. She loves you.
But people are dependent on you out there. And so he has to plan this opportunity to get off the boat so that he can come home and be like, "You have another man in my car. What have you been doing?" So he
Right.
gets this opportunity on this next stop. So he has to come up with a reason for, that's compelling enough for him to be let out of work and then so he can come back. So, and then he has to figure out a way to get home since his car is in Vicksburg, Mississippi, which is 2 hours from Meridian,
Mhm.
Mississippi, but he's not close to Vicksburg or Meridian. So he's been talking about this Whitley nonsense, all this hitch to Boat Mama, Miss Cheryl. And so she's aware of everything. So Christian wakes up on February 25th and he's talking to her and he told her that he had to get off the boat because his mom kicked out his dad and his little sister and they needed to get into his apartment and the landlord wouldn't let them in without Christian being there. This excuse works on the captain, but like Miss Cheryl said, I was born at night, but it wasn't last night. She knew.
Right. She didn't buy it.
Now,
No.
he told her what he had told the captain. He said, "I'm going to take care of some stuff." And he told the captain that he would meet them at another dock the next day. Now, it's going to be like a brief pit stop, and then he's coming right back. Like he's get off the boat, I'm gonna come right back.
I think
So the
in his
captain
mind,
says,
he thought, "That's it. This is it. I'm gonna go
exactly,
kick this bitch out of my house, maybe change the logs if I need to, and then I'm gonna go right back to work, so I don't have to deal with it."
exactly.
So
So,
that's
and
what I
he
think
says,
he
"I'll
was
be
trying to
back
do.
at work by 5:30 the next evening." Okay. So Christian calls a friend that he works with, Justin Burns, around midnight on the 25th to see if he would come pick him up in St. Rose, which is in Louisiana outside of New Orleans, and take him back to Meridian. Now, Justin says he would. He agreed. But before he was like, as he's getting ready to leave to come get Christian calls him and says, "Don't worry about it. I've got another ride." Now, Christian had tons of friends who would have happily made the drive to pick
Mhm,
him up.
mhm.
He didn't call any of them. If he'd have called Ray, I believe that woman probably would have driven to Louisiana with a smile on her
I
face and
She probably
packing
would've, but I
supplies
also
in the
feel
trunk of her car.
right, but I also feel like she might have, um I mean, as a mom, like, "What's going on? Why do you need to get off the boat?" Like, I probably, if I were her, would have tried to dig a little, like, "Whoa, I mean, if you really need me to come get you, I will, but,
But why?
you know,
Tell me
what's going
why.
on?" And if he had said it, I definitely think she would have tried to stop that. "No, no, no, get back on the boat, go do your thing, leave that alone, we'll figure it out later." I don't
Well,
think
a
she would
part
have
of me
wanted
says
him
that
to.
she probably would have done that, and the other part of me is like, she probably would have driven to Louisiana with a smile and packing supplies and been like, "Get in the car, let's go."
Maybe.
That's two different sides. But he's 21, it's young love. If Look, I'm gonna tell you right now, if my husband and I get in a fight and he's on the boat and I'm like, I'm just not gonna talk to you, I promise you he's gonna be like, yeah, she'll call me in an hour. Whatever. Like he's not
Mm.
gonna come home and rush home and any of that. When we were younger, yes. Now,
Well, it's just a young
no.
people thing,
It
you
is.
get that
It's a young person
hormone
mindset.
racing and anger and.
Exactly. So I'm not surprised that he wanted to get off the boat and handle it. I'm not. But,
Mm,
he tells his captain, I'm going to be back tomorrow. This is what I'm doing. I've got to let my parent, he came up with his story, but he's coming right back. So Christian calls Dylan Swearingen to come get him. Now, this plan is to kick her out, get his car, and go right back to work same day. Now, brief side note, let's talk about who the fuck Dylan Swearingen is.
mm,
Okay. Dylan actually is from Meridian, knew Christian. Um, they kind of grew up in the same circle, but they
mm.
were not really friends. He was an acquaintance who was Whitley's friend. Dylan is a known drug user, super sketchy guy. Um,
And it just felt like in all the things I read and different, pieces where, information came from, like him and Whitley were always hanging out, like partners in crime, like almost up to devious stuff
literally.
all the time, and particularly when Christian was not home, he was out on his hitch. They're together, they're hanging
Yeah.
out, they're doing stuff. I mean, it's just weird.
Well, and
So
you know what? Christian's best friend Taylor Dial said that Dylan was bringing Christian down. Taylor likened Christian and Dylan's friendship to the old saying, "You are what you eat. You become the people you surround yourself with."
mhm,
And Dylan apparently is this guy who's just like laying around eating Funyuns, drinking Mountain Dew, getting
mhm.
high all day, and has zero fucking goals and ambitions in
Well,
life.
yeah, and then neither one of them are working, so
Now,
Dylan doesn't work.
Ray refers to Dylan and Whitley as leeches. That's nicely
Oh,
what I have to
okay.
say about them.
Yeah, but really, I guess they were. I mean, neither Whitley or Dylan were working, but they were living in not just Christian's apartment, but Christian and his brother's apartment. So these guys are hardworking, paying all the bills. You just go
You got
in and
Whitley
mess
over here
stuff
bringing all her
and
friends over to just slum it out.
mhm,
Um,
in someone
and
else's
talking about he
apartment.
was, they were leeches. So Dylan Swearingen wrecks his truck. Christian paid to fix it.
Mhm.
Dylan's not some great friend to Christian. Um, And so for
No.
whatever reason that he called him over everyone to pick him up, that doesn't set well with me nor anybody else. But
Mm,
getting back to the 25th and the 26th, Christian and Dylan have spoken at about 1:30, 1:40 in the morning, and by 3:45 in the morning, Dylan's driving to St. Rose, Louisiana. Christian talked on the phone to Ray at 7:30, 7:40 in the morning on the 26th while waiting for Dylan. Now, he told her he had to get off the phone and made absolutely no mention about getting off the boat. So he
nope, he
never says
never told
anything to
his
Ray
mother. No.
about going
And
home and
that
doing
kinda
any of
takes
this
me back to what I was saying earlier, like, I think he knew mom would have talked him out of it.
and
Mom
told
would
him
have
to
said,
stay
"Whoa, wait a
on.
minute, stay there." Yeah.
Exactly. So, and she said they had a completely typical, normal conversation. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. Um, she does say that she wishes they had been in a little bit of a better place in their relationship since they were so strained over the things with Whitley. Um, but they had a normal, regular conversation. He told her he loved her like he always did, hung up
Mm,
the phone. So Dylan picks him up at around 8 a.m. and says in his statement, now this is where I'm going to bust this whole statement wide open. He says in his statement to police that Christian was coming to his car while peeling off his blue work jumpsuit that has not been seen since, by the way. But once in the car, Christian told him that he left without permission and security was after him, and that they had alerted the local authorities. Now, let me tell you why I know that statement is bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, St. Rose, Louisiana is a whole dock of its own. There's multiple barge areas for you to dock at. Okay. Magnolia Marine actually has a dock at St. Rose. There is no fucking security. It is an unsecured dock, as well as my husband's dock is unsecured. Okay. I've been there numerous times. Now, when he's talking about coming down the hill, he's talking about coming over the levee. There is no security. And here's a fun fact: there's no such thing as walking off a dock without permission. As long as you, unless there's like some kind of crazy probable cause, they think you stole something or committed a crime.
Right.
But
Yeah.
alerting the local authorities, number one, cannot be done. Local authorities have zero jurisdiction. That is maritime, that is merchant marine, and the only people that can come on that dock and fuck with anybody is the U.S. Marshals. They can't arrest you out there unless they get a fucking marshal. Point blank, period. That's the law. Number
Right.
two, unsecured dock. Number three, Christian had his TWIC card and all of his credentials. If you have your TWIC card, just like my husband right now could walk onto any area, I have my TWIC card and I'm here for this, and come on through. So therefore, Dylan's whole entire statement is bullshit.
Well, that's
Point
because
blank.
Dylan didn't know. He was just making it up. And I mean, I guess with this episode, I told you before the show, like I have my hard opinions and I don't think anyone's going to convince me differently.
Won't.
So, Dylan, it's all stories. Everything that came out of his mouth and Whitley's mouth, all just stories, just storytelling. Nothing of what that their timeline or what they're saying most likely ever happened. It's all
Exactly.
just some fantastical story that they made up. So,
Now, remember, they leave. So they stop by a gas station. Christian fills up Dylan's truck for coming to get him. The trip
of
back to
course,
Meridian, 3 hours, three and a half. They get back to Meridian between 11:45. Um, and after 12:40 p.m., there is absolutely no more activity on Christian's phone until 3:44 p.m. Okay. So after Christian gets off the boat, the only people he sees and talks to are Dylan and
yeah,
Whitley.
Whitley.
Now,
Mhm.
between them and the police arriving on scene after being called to suicide, all we have to go by are the complete statements of Dylan and Whitley that were given to the police. Dylan calls 911 at 4:45 saying, "We've had a suicide." I listened to that 911 call. The reason I don't like that opener to me is just you're setting the scene. You're preemptively placing the seed of this, because as someone who has tons of friends and everything that works in law enforcement, EMS, any first responders, I can tell you this: your hope, your lifeline is that 911 dispatcher. They're a miracle worker for you. You think that they're going to work a miracle. He calls and goes, "We've got a suicide." It doesn't add up to me, because if it's my best friend, you need to get here now. I'm not
Mhm.
telling you what happened because I don't know what happened. You know what I mean?
Well, not only
So
that, you're I guess a normal human reaction, you're in a bit of shock. You're
you're in
a
shock.
little bit, yeah, like,
Absolutely.
"Oh my god, I just somebody's been shot," not necessarily
Absolutely.
the fact that he
Now,
said it's a suicide,
yeah,
I don't
we've
know.
had a suicide. Like, the
I don't know,
wording
maybe,
of it
yeah.
just
Yeah.
doesn't set with me. So the officers who arrive on the scene only investigate this for about 45 minutes, declare Christian's death a suicide, and they wrap it up. Now, one of the things that's weird to me, and it's explained by the private investigator that the Andreacchios actually ended up hiring on their own, Max Mays, is the police on scene don't ever make the declaration. And I double checked to ask around about this. Police on the scene are not the ones that make a declaration of
Mhm.
cause of death, and they definitely don't do it in 45 minutes. Um, and the police chief, there's no record of the police chief. But there's a list of people that said that this happened. The police chief, who I guess lived in these apartments or was in that area, walks in and's like, shut it down. Um, Never in all of my life have I ever heard of that. Now they've concluded all this in 45 minutes. These have either got to be like the smartest police officers that have ever lived or a fucking troop of Barney Fifes. There is no in between with this
Mhm,
at
mm.
all. Um, why would a chief come in and stop an investigation? Why would the cops on scene determine in 45 minutes all these things? Then, on top of that, so Christian is found with his head in the tub, his feet outside the tub. He's laying over it, but not like he's kneeling. He's like laying beside it, like he's giving a dog a bath, kind of. Um, it's like he's laying over the edge of the tub with his waist and hips, holding the weight on the side, but his hands are outside of the tub, like by his sides, like he
Mm.
fell forward into the tub.
Right.
There's a bullet hole in the wall on the other side of the bathroom by the light switch. And the only bullet collected was inside the tub, and the gun was found wedged between Christian's left thigh and
Mhm,
the
and the
tub.
tub.
Now,
So, with
they
that I'm sorry.
now the gun is unchambered, and the gun that was used was a semi-automatic, or the gun they said was used was a semi-automatic, which automatically reloads itself after a shot. So someone had to have manipulated the weapon after it went off. Clearly, they did, considering where it was found. The blood at the
Mhm,
crime scene was dried, yet they predicted the timeline of this suicide would have suggested he shot himself within the previous hour of the 911 call. Um, Now, once the cops are quote unquote done investigating, they inform the Andreacchi. They finally inform the Andreacchios. Um, Now, in all of that, and listening to the 911 call and all this, um, which we'll get into in part two on the 911 call, but there's a lot of things that don't add up. And why were the Andreacchios not informed by the authorities themselves? I still don't understand that. But Ray and Todd are out eating dinner, and Todd's dad called and said, "Hey, y'all need to come home." They kind of disregarded it. They finished eating, and then Todd's dad called again and says, "There's been a tragedy to one of the kids. Like something's happened. You need to come home." They go through like a mental check, their parents, and they're like, "Well, Alexa's at church, so she's fine. Christian's on the boat. Ray talked to him that morning. Um, maybe Josh got hurt on the boat. He's newer out there and not quite a season. So they thought Josh was injured. Something had happened to him. So they get to Todd's dad's house, and he actually has to be the one to tell them that Christian is deceased. Ray's like, nope, that's not true. Todd's dad Christian gave Ray Christian's license that was taken off of him and said it was a suicide at his apartment. Ray obviously doesn't believe him. Not only was Christian not at his apartment, but he definitely wouldn't kill himself. So, in fact, every single person that knew Christian that I've read or listened to anything about, so there's no way that he would have done this. I mean, he loved life, he loved his family, his friends. He was never depressed. He never showed signs of this suicidal depression or suicidal ideology. And let's just say we never know what somebody's actually going through mentally every day,
right. That's
but
very true.
there are signs. There are always
Sometimes,
signs. Anybody
yeah.
that tells you there aren't, there are. You just didn't look at them. In this case, not
Mhm.
one person can confirm there was ever an ounce of signs for this. And everybody's like, no, he didn't kill himself. It's not even possible. Christian wouldn't do that.
I think not there was no sign of suicide, but definitely signs of toxicity in that relationship.
Oh,
There was
absolutely.
that.
The level of
Everybody
toxicity is
knew,
just
but what
insane.
can you do?
Now, after this incident, Christian's brother Josh is the one that was actually forced to clean up the crime scene, which is complete
With his
bullshit,
uncle,
Chris.
yeah, they went back into that
Because
crime
here's the
scene.
thing though, here in Mississippi, and I know from personal experience, I have a friend whose husband passed at home, and We have a company that's all nation or statewide called Trauma Clean. We also have Serve Pro, which does crime scene cleanup. So they never even alerted to try to get a cleanup. So Josh, his brother, and his uncle are now the ones that are having to clean up this this space.
Mm,
Um, Now Christian's parents have, revisited the site of where their son supposedly committed suicide. They found a bloody towel stuffed behind the toilet and a knife covered in blood. They take these items to the police. They're lost. Where are they? Nobody knows
yeah.
where these items are.
And the authorities are saying we never got them. I mean, they
Yeah.
just keep going back and forth in circles, but we brought it, and they just keep saying we don't have it. So,
So
yeah,
then Christian's autopsy is deemed undetermined, which is not a suicide, just undetermined.
undetermined, cause of death. Yeah. So,
Exactly. So then he has a fracture on the back of his skull and a small wound between his eyebrows, which was confirmed to have happened before death.
mm, like the bridge of his nose or something
Yeah,
like
like
that.
in this, from what I gather in this area. Now remember, Josh is on a boat near New Orleans when he's called up to the captain and says someone's on the phone for him. They tell Josh that Christian's committed suicide. Josh said absolutely not and hung up the phone and goes back to work. And eventually they're like, no, you got to
Right.
go home. So he gets off the boat with his uncle, and his uncle Chris picks him up and brings him back to Meridian. So once he's allowed back in the apartment, Josh said he's completely shocked by the state of the place. He's gone less than 4 weeks, and when he left, this place is spotless. Um, Now when
Mm,
he comes back, there are cigarettes and empty beer containers, holes in the wall, and Christian's mattress. It's like they took a knife and just slashed this mattress looking for something. Now, what could you possibly be looking for in a mattress? Why would you destroy why would you do
yeah.
that? That
You're
why
looking
would
for
you do
money
that?
or something? That's my
That's what
thought.
I think. So then Ray asked Chris to please get Christian's phone and the keys to the BMW. So Chris goes back into the police department and he asks the officers for the keys to Christian's car and Christian's cell phone. The officers told him they didn't know where they were. Um, he told them they would have to ask one of those doofuses back there. I'm not going to call them people; those are dumbasses. But
Right.
they went. So Chris goes back and he asks Whitley, and at first she says, "I don't know. I don't have them." So they're like, "We're not leaving until we have these things." So this is a back
Right.
and forth. I don't have them. I don't know. I don't have them. I don't know. So they're like, "We're not leaving until we have them." And then miraculously, guess what?
I think he's implying he did it for the money. Yep.
Guess what? She produces them out of her purse. The phone was in
Yeah.
her purse all along with his keys. So that to me is just a giant red flag. Okay.
Mm,
Because she just blatantly is like, I don't know where they are. I don't have them. I don't know where they are. I don't have them. And then
mm,
produces them when they're like, we're not leaving.
yep. When she's backed into a corner, she produces it. But
And now all of
I'm
a sudden
so
she's like, here you go.
surprised that they didn't ask any more questions. Like, why are you trying to hide this? What are you? Why wouldn't you just tell us you had it?
Exactly. But now remember, Shitley and Dylan are questioned. Okay.
Mm,
Dylan gives his side of the story. Dylan claimed that Christian arrived at the apartment at 11:30 a.m. and argued with Whitley. Now Dylan says he stays upstairs the whole time. Okay. He says he stays upstairs the whole time. They're arguing, they're fighting, yada yada. And he says that Christian puts a gun to his head and is like, "Do you love me?" But now he never came
right.
downstairs. Okay, so Whitley's supposedly trying to get the gun away from Christian and he's acting like crazy and Dylan just stays upstairs watching from upstairs. Now, if you're my best
No.
friend and you're acting like that, I'm coming down here. We're going to like sort some shit out. All
Yeah.
right?
Uh, yeah, I
Period.
agree. Yeah.
Um but no, he just stays up there. So now this is we just the whole time I've listened and read, and I'm like, but really though? So he's like, oh, they're just fighting and yada yada yada. They're back and forth. He's holding a gun to his head. Then
Mm.
they calmed down and we watched a movie. So we
I've
go
heard
from
that a
pulling
couple times.
fucking guns to Disney movies or
But
whatever.
there
Like,
was there was that statement was said a couple times, like,
yes,
things went down again, and then, "Oh, we just sat down and watched a movie." There's
like,
that much fighting, and then you sit down and watch a movie?
yeah,
Now,
I'm pulling
the other
guns on
thing is
myself and other people and yada yada yada. But now we just watched a movie. So um after this movie they supposedly watched, Dylan says he's gonna run errands and go get something to eat, and y'all want anything? And Christian supposedly gives him his card and says Chick-fil-A and go pull all of my money out of my bank account and you take it.
yeah, no. No.
Yeah, he just gives him his card, no PIN number though. Go to Chick-fil-A, get the Lord's chicken, and go take all my money out of the bank. And you just take it and frolic.
Mhm.
Makes sense?
And he
So,
does
but
it
now
too, because
remember,
here it is.
Christian's supposedly pulling a gun and putting it to his head. Now, if my friend's doing that and I am gonna
Mhm.
leave, there's Dylan trying to get the money. As you can
Mhm.
see, like he's here at the bank, so that's confirmed. Um, now Christian's pulling a gun, putting it to his head, right?
Mhm.
You're gonna leave. Are you gonna leave the gun there? No. But he says he took the gun away from Christian and he kept it while they watched the movie and he unloaded it, but then he gave it back to Christian, but then he says he hid it behind a curtain so Christian wouldn't find it. So I but then an hour later, of
Yeah,
course, Dylan's seen trying to get the money. He told the police that he had gone to the credit union and they said, "Why did you do that?" And he said, "Because he wanted me to have it." So, unfortunately for Dylan, though, they're stupid and Christian didn't give him a PIN number. So, no money came out of his
because
account.
I don't think that Christian actually gave him.
I don't either. I
I
don't
don't
believe
think
that.
he said, "Here, go take all my money. Here's my information." I don't know. I don't think that he did that. I mean, there was, I don't know where I heard it, read it, whatever. They had found a piece of paper with the account number and the routing number on it in the apartment.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know where that came from or what it was for. Maybe that's how they got a hold of it. I don't know, but I don't believe that he said, "Here, take all my money. I don't want it."
Yeah. So then Dylan says he returns to the house. Now, he didn't get any money, but he returns to the house where Christian and Whitley took a ride to talk about things. There's no proof of this ride, by the way. But
Mhm.
then he wakes up and he sees Christian sitting on the couch smoking a cigarette and Whitley's asleep in another room. And then
Mhm.
Dylan decides that he's going to leave again. And he tells Christian he's going to go to Best Buy and look at some speakers or something. But Dylan decided to leave. So he gave Christian his gun back. He's like, here you go, buddy. Now, when police ask why he did
But
that,
he
Dylan
said,
said, well, I couldn't take it with me.
he said, "Make sure you unload it and don't touch it again."
Yeah, because that's going to make me
Yeah,
listen if I'm going to do something
yeah.
crazy.
Mhm.
But when the cops asked, well, why did you do this? Dylan said, I couldn't take it with me. Well, he never took it with him the first time, but he
Why
supposedly
did
hid it
you have to
behind a
take it out of
curtain.
hiding, you know? Yeah, no,
So
yeah.
then after he runs these errands, going to Best Buy about these speakers, he returns to Christian's apartment around 4. This is what he claims. He claims that Whitley's asleep at the time, that Christian was nowhere to be seen. And then he noticed a light on upstairs. So he knocks on the door asking, are you all right? Why is your first thought to be like knocking on the bathroom door? Are you all right? First, he said, oh, I thought he was taking a shower. Well, you would hear water. This apartment is like 700 square feet, little bitty apartment. Okay. The walls are paper thin. You're going to hear water running in a shower.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
Now Whitley says that she's just on Xanax, barred out her mind or whatever. And so she's asleep. She slept through all of this, right? And so He apparently talks to Whitley. Whitley responds. Whitley goes back to sleep. I don't know. There's so many versions of this stories that they told,
Mhm.
but he's knocking on the door, man. Are you all right? Gets no response. So he rushes in there to wake Whitley up and let her know that Christian's in the bathroom and not answering him. But Whitley goes back to sleep. So he opens the door and says he discovers Christian's body slumped in the bathtub. So now Whitley's barred out. She's been sleeping through all this excitement in this apartment. Um, and then all of a sudden she just pops up out of bed, just, I'm
Oh.
awake, I'm awake. So he shouts to her and he's like, Christian's dead. Never checked him any further. Whitley apparently, now remember, she's supposedly asleep and this, that, and that. But then she runs up the stairs screaming
Well,
and holds Christian while Dylan calls 911. Now, when he makes the initial call, once again, he said he had seen blood spatter on the stairs. But if Christian closed the door, put his head in the tub, and then he shot himself, why is there blood spatter outside of the bathroom? Number one, I have questions. But then Whitley's side of the events. So Whitley's statement starts by telling the cops that Christian didn't trust her. She was planning on leaving him, and she had just convinced herself that they could work it out. And she said the night before Christian came home, he called her saying he was quitting his job and coming back. Now this is the same time frame they were apparently not speaking on. Remember, she's not talking to him.
Mhm.
Now his parents are like, Christian would have never ever quit his job. He worked too
Right,
hard for
no.
this. Um,
No.
so Whitley never mentioned any argument that took place between the two where Christian puts a gun to his head. She never mentions this to the cops. Instead, she said they went on a ride to a park where Christian told her that he felt like he couldn't make anyone happy. Um, and the last piece of her statement was that they got home and she took a nap with her dog. Now, when the police asked Whitley if Christian ever talked about hurting himself, she said, I don't think so. So, what about him putting a gun to his head earlier? Because that's what
Right.
or what Dylan says. So she says, oh, I slept through the gunshot.
Mhm.
Who? No, ma'am. I've shot many a 45 in my life. And I'm telling you right now, ain't no way you slept through that in that little bitty apartment. It's not possible.
What's weird is with that said, it's weird that all of a sudden, she wakes up because Dylan comes in and yells
Comes
to
in there
her.
and he's like, hey,
But you
Christian's
didn't
dead.
wake up to a 45 caliber gun, but you woke up to somebody shouting.
Yeah, that
Makes no
makes
sense.
sense. I think
I
it
know
I
later
mean, if I
she
killed him if
right.
I killed somebody, my story would probably not make
Oh,
sense
yeah.
either, I'm just saying.
True.
Um,
Later on, we'll find more about how her story changes multiple times. It's
oh,
first I
absolutely.
found him, then it's Dylan found him, and then it's just on and on and on. So,
And then so in this, Christian, Whitley, and Dylan, the cops are like, we're doing a gunshot residue test on their hands. Whitley out of the blue was like, I'm gonna have gunshot residue on me. I was out shooting the night before, which will that culpable will call that gun night. Okay.
oh yeah,
Um,
yeah, that episode,
so she's
that
like, I'm,
show.
I'm already gonna have GSR on me. Now, here's a fun fact about GSR, if anybody didn't know, it doesn't last as long as most people think.
And that's
You know this.
gunshot residue, yeah, just for listeners. Yeah.
Um, so it only stays on someone's hand for about 4 to 6 hours, maybe 12. Okay. Unless they take a shower and they wash their hands, it's going to lessen. Now, Dylan's came back positive as well. But
All
if you
3 of
weren't at the
them, yeah.
house, if you weren't at the house,
Mm-mm.
how did that happen? If you weren't in the apartment, you weren't in the house, and you were at Best Buy looking at speakers or gallivanting trying to take his money,
Why do you have gunpowder? Yeah,
how do you
gun
have
residue.
gunshot residue on your hands?
Mhm.
Um, Now she says, "Oh, well, I have it on me because I was out with this guy named
Shooting,
Matt
yeah.
Miller. That's the guy that she was driving around in Christian's car, and they're shooting guns the night before. So I guess she just, didn't shower. Now Matt comes forward and says Whitley only started talking to him once Christian left for this trip. Matt asked Whitley if she was still with Christian, and she says no. So despite
She
Whitley
said,
saying
no, he
that
was
she
with
shot it,
someone else or something, yeah.
yeah, she wasn't with anyone. She wasn't
Yeah,
with Christian anymore. So
yeah.
then, despite her saying that she shot guns with him, Matt says no, she didn't. Says that she was too scared. Said that the entire time they were out at gun night, with his cousin Jet Miller, she was sitting on his lap with her ears covered. And guess what?
Mm,
They ended up banging it out before heading back to Christian's apartment. But then Matt gets the news of Christian's suicide the day after. So he calls Whitley's phone and she doesn't answer. Who he calls one of Whitley's friends, who she's, I guess, staying with now because her free ride's now dead.
mm,
Whitley told Matt that Christian found out that she was cheating on him. So they rode around to talk about it and they took a nap together. That's
hmm.
so there's another discrepancy. Whitley told the police
Yeah.
that she took a nap by
Mm,
herself. She also told Matt that she woke up to the sound of a gunshot. She ran upstairs and found a bullet wound to Christian's throat.
throat. Yep, throat.
But then she admitted to
Defense.
Matt that Christian did make threats to hurt himself. Um, but now here's what this really fucks me up. She tells Matt Miller that when she found Christian's body, she went through his pants pockets and took a cigarette out to go smoke it. That chilled me.
He's
I don't
dead. I couldn't even go near someone that I love's dead body in that moment.
are
I
you no
couldn't.
way.
I would be so distraught that something had happened to them that
Yeah.
I'd be outside somewhere just away from the body.
But
Um,
she says she went through his pockets. What she told Matt Miller is that she went through his pockets and
mm,
got a cigarette. So she contradicts her story to the police because she told the
mm,
authorities she never heard the gunshot and he had zero suicidal behavior. And then, furthermore, Christian's phone records show that on the afternoon that he supposedly shot himself, at the time when Whitley said she was asleep, now on the couch, not in the bed,
mm.
7 calls were made from Christian's phone to Matt Miller. Okay. These calls are
But
from
those
Whitley.
but those 2, Matt Miller and Christian, were not connected. They were not 2
No,
people that really knew each other at all.
no.
There would be no reason for Christian to be calling Matt
No.
at that
And
time.
Matt says that the calls came from Whitley. She said that
Mm,
she was asking him to come get her because her and Christian were fighting. So he says, yeah, she called me from Christian's phone, but it was Whitley. So why would Christian willingly let Whitley call another dude from his phone to come get her if they were
mhm,
fighting about her cheating in the first place?
right.
Now,
Makes no sense.
during this super duper short investigation, if we'll call it that, it comes out that Christian's car that he drove to work has been moved early before his death on the 26th. So between 2
Mm,
and 6 a.m. Now remember, Christian had 2 cars. He drove his Jeep to the job site in Vicksburg and the BMW that Whitley's riding around in. Christian
mm,
obviously couldn't have moved it himself because he was on a boat in the water. So, and then the lockbox, the $7,000 and the gun in the lockbox, gone. Still not found. Never seen again. Christian, now
mhm.
we're gonna yeah. So then, getting to the gun and the bullet. Now we've talked about some discrepancies. This is just part one. I'm telling you, y'all. Wait, this is. But let's talk about the gun and the bullet for 2 seconds. Christian's right-handed. The gun is found between his left thigh and the tub. All right. Now, even more questionable is that the gun's been manually decocked. This gun doesn't do that automatically.
Mhm.
So the assumption here is somehow in some realm, Christian shoots himself in the right side of his head with his non-dominant left hand and decocks his own gun, putting a live round in the chamber before collapsing on the side of the tub.
Yeah. That right there, that in itself is enough to prove that wasn't suicide. That in itself. Anything else is just like doesn't even matter at this point. That single thing, the right side of the temple has the bullet wound, and the gun is on the ground between his left thigh. So not sure, great physics there. I don't know, but
But now, even the Andreacchio's attorney says that that gun, there's no way would have ended up beneath him. The recoil would have sent it to, I don't know, the right, considering he was shot in the right side of his head. Um,
right.
Now the bullet was found in the tub,
Mm-hmm.
but the bullet that was found had been found to have drywall on it, like
Oh,
wallboard, Um, and it's a completely through and through wound in his head, meaning the bullet went somewhere after leaving his body. And there was a bullet
no.
hole in the bathroom wall by the light switch, but the bullet hole was in the tub, and Christian was over the tub. But there's
Right.
not a hole in the tub. So this bullet never touched the tub other than in the tub. So now it's physics don't exist in this apartment, or somebody's story
Defies
is a
all
fucking
gravity
lie.
and physics and yeah, no.
I mean,
Right.
you have one of two options. Either physics don't exist in this in that apartment, in apartment 801, or somebody lied. Those are the options.
Mm,
Now when we get into part 2, when we talk about, because this is just their stories. We've touched base on what happened to Christian, or supposedly how he passed, right? And remember this, so going into part 2, there were no fingerprints at all on the gun. None.
yeah, none. Yeah, we'll get into
So
that
how did
next
he pull
time.
the trigger and he didn't leave a fingerprint? He didn't have those?
Mhm. There was no blood on the gun. There was no fingerprint on the gun. So, yeah, but part 2, we definitely need to dive into
No.
that.
Yeah. So part 2, we're gonna get into some of the things that this poor family has endured, not only in the death of their family member, but also the things that Ray herself has had to go through. And we're gonna talk about that 911 call, and we're gonna dissect it, because
Mhm.
I have a timeline. I have all of these things, and this case is not one that you can wrap up in one show. I was gonna try it first, and then the more I went into it, and I was like, it's not even possible. This is not. It can't be done. It cannot be
Right.
done.
No, no, it's
So
just too much going
um,
on. So,
next week, if you
yeah.
tune in for part 2, we will be diving into actually Dylan and Whitley's actual statements. I have a copy of those. We're going to read those, and then we're going to talk about that 911 call and the things that this family has endured. Um,
And we may have a special surprise. So,
we
we'll
may
just leave it
have a
at
very
that.
yes, we may have a surprise for you. You don't want to miss it.
No.
But as once again, thank y'all so much for tuning in to Cocktails and Crimes. You
Mhm.
can find us on all major platforms, and we are audio now.
We're
I'm
on
so excited
Spotify,
about
Apple Podcasts, basically anywhere you can find a podcast. So,
Yes, I'm super excited to finally announce that. We've
mhm.
been working super hard
Yep.
to get to the audio section. So you can now listen to us. If you don't want to see our faces, you can just listen to us talk. We do that.
Yeah,
Um,
works.
but cheers, ladies and gentlemen. And here's one sip for the books. Have your cocktails, and we'll cover the crimes.
Bye.
Bye, guys. And don't forget to go check out my friend over here on Lost Common Sense and Unexplained Realms. And we
Okay.
will be back on Thursday at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time with part 2 for Christian Andreacchio. Bye, guys.